and welcome to EmyLuDesigns. My name's Lucas, and we're going to be showing you how you can make a 36-inch Pottery Barn dupe shelf for about $8, or two for $8 if you cut them down to 18 inches. The design is pretty straightforward, and these are relatively easy to make. So let's take a look and see how we did it. First thing we need is the wood that we're going to make the shelf out of. Now we're going to use one piece of 12-inch by 36-inch paint grade pine that you can find at any hardware store. It's fairly cheap since it's paint grade, but if you dig through you can find really nice pieces of wood. I went to the local Lowe's and found a piece for $7.12. And really for this project you can use whatever kind of wood you like. Even if you chose a really nice piece of wood that's higher in price, you can still use the same method to make these shelves. But for this project we're using this to make it as affordable as possible. Now let's talk about tools here. I'm using an 8-inch table saw, a nail gun, a hand sander, a belt sander, a drill with a countersink bit, wood glue, wood filler, and to finish the piece, a can of satin polyurethane spray. Now to take some measurements. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to measure the thickness of the board. That's going to be our first cut. The next two cuts will be 2 inches each. And then what's left over will be our shelf. So after you measure the thickness of the board, scribe that line down one side, and then set your router table up for that same thickness. One cool little hack here for your table saw is to take your board and set it sideways between the blade and the gate, and then get the gate kind of snug against the board before you set it and lock it in place. That'll make that first cut almost identical to the thickness of the board. Then next we're going to mark 2 inches and make two 2-inch cuts down the board. Now that we've made all our cuts, now it's time to make the bracket. To do this, we're going to take the first 3 pieces that we've cut and make sort of a C shape out of it. We're going to apply wood glue to the smaller piece in the middle and sandwich that between the two 2-inch pieces. And then you're going to take your nail gun and nail it through on both sides, working your way from one end down to the other. When you do this, you want to make sure you're keeping that smaller board that's in the middle as flush to the edge of the 2-inch pieces as possible as you work your way down. Wood has a tendency to bend a little bit, so it's okay to kind of bend it in place to make sure it stays straight. And then take some wood glue and rub that into the back of the bracket just to make sure that it fills in all the gaps. Then use a flathead screwdriver to scrape out any extra glue on the inside part of the bracket. This will ensure you get a flush fit between the shelf and the bracket. Next we're going to fill in the nail holes with wood filler, and then we're going to take our belt sander and sand the back side of the bracket flush. Now we're going to create the bevel on the bracket. To do this, we're going to set the router at a 15-degree angle, and then we'll set the fence to about 1.25 inches. Essentially, you want 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch of overhang on the underside of the top part of that bracket. This could vary depending on the thickness of the wood that you use. Be sure when you're running this part through that you're keeping it tight against the fence as best as you can. That way that bevel is going to come through nice and smooth. And now all that's left is to clean up any of the cut marks and get our piece really nice and smooth by belt sanding it. I also run a belt sander on the shelf itself to clean that piece up and thin it out if needed so that it fits nicely in the bracket. And then finally, I like to take about a 220 grit on my finishing palm sander and bevel each edge to kind of make it nice and smooth. Next, you want to drill at least 3 holes for the mounting brackets, 1 in the middle and 2 at least 3 inches in from either side. You can drill extra holes as needed depending on stud locations when you mount the bracket and shelf. For added security, you can add a countersink hole underneath the lip of the bracket to hold the shelf in place once it's mounted. And now all that's left is to apply the finish of your choice. For ours, we left it natural and used a satin finish poly, or you can use any color spray paint of your choice. We really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you found it interesting, please give us a like and subscribe. Make sure to hit that notification button and follow us on our social media channels on Instagram at EmyLuDesigns and on TikTok at EmyLuDesigns, where you can see new content all the time. Thanks and have a good one.